His best friends are rocks by Gorilla of Undeath. I was outside watering my garden in the early hours of the morning. I usually slept in, but watering later on in the day meant I'd scorch my flowers. This was the first year I had such beautiful flowers. I was beginning to feel proud of my backyard. I installed a fence to keep the neighbors from prying. I also whipped the overgrown, weed-filled land into something actually appealing. I bent down to pull out a weed that was beginning to grow when I heard the old man next door talking. "Catharsis, my old friend. Surely I couldn't do that." I heard no response. There was just silence for a few moments before he spoke again. "You really think so? Well, I guess I could think it over." Again, there was no response. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to peek through one of the cracks in the fence. A lush green yard was dotted with flowers blooming on the edge of the property. Everything seemed so well maintained. Not a single weed could be spotted. There was the old man, his head topped by thin gray strands of hair. His body seemed gaunt and frail. He sat on a cushion in the center of the prominent stone garden. Two large rocks rested beside him. Perennial stone crop lined the area, weaving its way through the stones. The old man sipped a cup of tea delicately. His yard was so much better than mine, and I felt a tinge of jealousy for a moment. The free time from retirement must have really had its benefits, I guess. What do you think, Alcor? Will you allow me to finally make the transformation? Transformation? Who is he even talking to? I saw no one else. I leaned forward trying to get a better view of what he was doing. Funny, I put up the fence to keep prying eyes away, and here I was. If you guys say so, then I guess I'll think it over. That isn't really an easy decision. The old man resumed sipping his tea, but I still didn't see a single person. He used names earlier, but they were so bizarre. I began to think maybe the old man was crazy. I shifted my weight to try to get comfortable, but as I did, I knocked my elbow against the fence. There was definitely an audible thud. I saw the old man look in my direction. I moved back from the crack in the fence, flinging my hand over my mouth. I hoped he didn't know that I was spying on him. I got myself away from the fence and began to roll up the hose, acting like everything was normal. I heard a clatter of stones, and a grunt from the other side of the fence before there was a coughing fit. My bones really ache. I don't think my old body can take much more. I need to join you. There was silence again. I paused rolling up the hose specifically to listen to any sort of reaction, but there was none. I sat perfectly silent until the old man spoke again. Is that really the only way? It's been 40 years we've been married. I've done everything else you've asked me. My friends, my family, they're all gone. She's the last one left. You two have become my best friends, but... The old man was interrupted mid-sentence by a second voice. It was the first time today I heard another person speak. Henry! Henry! Come inside. It's not good for you to be sitting on the ground. All this gardening has done a number on your back. You need to at least use a chair if you're going to sit out there, the woman said. It's all right, dear. I'm coming in. Is there any more of that tea? The voices grew fainter and fainter until I heard the door to the house slam shut. That must have been his wife. I moved over back to the crack in the fence, looking to see if I missed something. But there was no one else in the backyard. The two rocks he sat between stood brilliantly. Their forms were quite beautiful. He really did have a nice backyard. The next few days, I followed up the same watering routine. I was up early and out watering my flowers before the sun grew too powerful. The same thing seemed to happen every day. The man would come out with tea, sit in between the two rocks, and talk. Catharsis and Alcor were the names he used, and I came to a conclusion that he had named the two rocks. I thought it was a little strange, but he seemed like a lonely old man. People like to assign names to many things. I named my car Betsy. On the other hand, I didn't have conversations with my car. Especially not strange requests to transform that the man had been asking about every day. I didn't really see the cause for too much concern. Until Friday morning. I was watering my flowers as usual, but the old man who was normally present by now wasn't outside. I thought maybe he slept in today. But then I heard the door open. His breathing was heavy, followed by repeated grunting noises. I heard the sound of something heavy being dragged across the porch, then into the yard. I just had to see what was going on. Lining one eye up, I peered through the crack in the fence. To my horror, the man dragged the bloodied corpse of a woman. Sweat formed and trickled down his face. Pausing, he wiped his forehead with his hand, smearing blood across it. It must have been his wife, judging by her age. Her body was marked with lacerations, oozing what little blood remained. One deep cut ran across her throat. The old man pulled the body towards the two rocks before falling on the ground in exhaustion. Trying to catch his breath, he spoke. Krathus, Alkalor, he said between breaths. I've done it. She was my last connection. I've got no one else. Let me join you. I'm gonna call the cops. But then the old man screamed out in frustration, "Let me join you!" Immediately, a gasp came from the old man's mouth as he clutched his chest. He bent over in pain, and he stayed that way for a few seconds, before there was a terrible tearing sound, as his heart ripped through the muscle and skin to escape his body. The heart levitated between the two rocks, still beating. Then it slowly began to turn gray, as the beating slowed until it finally stopped. The heart was now gray and lifeless, hard as a rock. Small stones began to levitate. The stones flung themselves at the rock heart, entombing it and merging together. The rock grew larger and larger, until there was a third rock that had joined Catharsis and Alcor. It took its place between them. I stared at the scene. 2 bodies laid on the ground, 3 rocks towering over them. I began to feel dizzy. My body felt weak. Black flashed across my eyes until I fell unconscious. I was flying now, up in the sky. As I flew through a fluffy white cloud, I could see the ground below. It was an expansive field just filled with rocks of various shapes and sizes. The field went on for seemingly forever, filled with erudite rocks, but it did have its end. When I had finally reached the sea, I could see the littered grounds. Corpses washed up on the beach, while others floated in the waves. Some were bloated and disfigured, others were pretty heavily rotted. But they all had one thing in common: a large gaping hole in their chest. I woke up with my head pounding, feeling disturbed from the strange dream or whatever it was. I was still in my backyard. I pulled myself up to my feet and looked through the crack in the fence to make sure what I had seen was real. 2 bodies lay there, a hole in the man's chest where the heart had erupted from his body. 3 rocks seemed both menacing and perfectly normal at the same time. A stony voice popped into my head. I am Malchazar. Come speak with us, neighbor. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this story. Just kind of a short one while I kind of battle my PC issues. I would like to take this opportunity to thank any of my $10 and above patrons. You too can get on this list, by the way. Just go to the Patreon down below. Dan R., Cody V., Paul Z., Chaos X, Mr. Swiston, Official Jerboa, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden MH, Ethan A., and Dark Side of the Bear. Guys, I really cannot express how grateful I am to all of my patrons and everyone who supports this, shares this, likes it, does all that. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. You can become a patron, get your name read off, and get some Patreon-only content by going to the link in the description. Thank you.